Here's the thing. Birds are real, and it's mean to say that they're not. Welcome back. This is the Birds Are Real podcast. I'm Sam. I'm here with my co-host.
My name's Kesh. Good to have everyone back listening to episode number 4.
Yeah.
5.
5, 4, who knows? We're recording these out of order.
Sounds good.
Kesh, yeah, how was your week? See any good birds?
Pretty good week. Went to John Hines per usual. Saw a few things. Saw a scarlet tanager.
Oh.
Would like to see a summer tanager one day, but this one was a scarlet tanager. Not the bright red that most people associate with it. It was probably a female, right? Or is it that their fall colors are a little?
Yeah, their
muted?
fall colors are like yellow.
Yeah, so it was a pretty yellow bird. I thought it was a different warbler or something that we saw, but Merlin, the app that we shouted out in the last episode, helped me determine that it was in fact a scarlet tanager.
Might have been 2 episodes ago.
Might have been 2 episodes ago at this point. We are recording these out of order. Yeah, but that was cool.
Yeah, I'm saying like I wasn't there with you at John Hines, but
you were there.
I was there.
I think you did see it.
I saw it. I didn't realize it was a scarlet tail.
Yeah, we did not realize in the moment. Only after we were going through the photos and editing and everything.
Mm-hmm. I also went to John Hines this past week, and I also was drawn in by a small yellow bird that I couldn't figure out what it was. Turns out Magnolia warbler. It's a lifer for me. I don't think I've ever seen one of those before.
Yeah, and I think we didn't notice it because it was in its fall plumage. Its breeding plumage is its belly and its throat are bright yellow, and it's got these very distinct black streaks going through it. I feel like we did see the black streaks, but I think they were just a lot more.
They were a little muted.
Yeah.
I think I said in the moment it was a parula because I just learned what a parula is, and I think everything's a parula now.
Yeah.
I also have been hearing every morning a red-shouldered hawk.
Oh, yeah?
Right outside the window. It's screaming every morning.
I'm really bad at the calls between the different raptors. They all just sound like very screamy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying red-shouldered hawk. I have no idea. But, these people don't know that.
That's true. Yeah.
Prove me wrong. You can't.
Apparently, some real birders are listening and
sorry,
critiquing our bird call quizzes. Well, we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Maybe. Kesh will.
So, thank you to everyone who gave suggestions on what to call our check-in topic. I say thank you, but only one person really gave us suggestions, and I think we're going to go with it.
Perfect suggestion.
Great suggestion. Lauren, longtime listener Lauren, gave us a suggestion to either call it Hoot Topics or Hoot Takes. And I think we both decided on Hoot Topics.
Hoot Topic.
I think that's great.
I think it's fantastic because our takes, we don't really have hot takes, but we sure do talk about topics.
Mm-hmm. And they're a hoot.
And they are a hoot.
So, yeah, the Hoot topic for today is given to us by also longtime listener Iris.
Literally 30 seconds before we started recording. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of, we were going through our check-in questions or like the different Hoot topics to go over today. Iris just gave us a couple of really, really good questions. So here we are. What birds are on your birding bucket list?
That's a good question. One that maybe I should have in mind more often while I'm out birding. Like maybe I should be trying to find specific birds. But there are some that always come to mind. I really first got into birding through raptors. This kid came to my 3rd grade class with this book called Raptors with an exclamation point, I'm pretty sure. And it just went over all the birds of prey.
Nice.
And ever since then, I've really wanted to see a peregrine falcon. Hopefully Cape May.
Hopefully.
We'll see. And I'd love to see some owls out in the wild. I've seen some at like zoos or like bird sanctuaries, but never out in the wild. They are nocturnal, so that makes it hard.
Yeah. That was probably going to be my answer. I was going to say like a bird on my birding bucket list that like I can reasonably see like here, and then one that like I would need to travel to see it and that I would like to see at some point. I was going to suggest, literally any owl. They look so cool and I haven't seen one. But as like, fall and winter approaches, I would love to see a loon, a common loon, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, you know who's a big fan of common loons?
Our producer Richelle.
Richelle.
Yeah. Common loon. Look it up if you would like. Very I think it's technically a duck. If not, it's very duck-like.
Certainly duck adjacent.
Duck
Yeah.
adjacent, yeah. It has got this really dark red eye and a very black head. I think it looks super cool.
And when they have babies, a lot of times the babies will just sit on the mama's back as
Yeah.
they swim through the water.
Same with like great crested grebes and stuff like that. I would love to get a photo or just even like, see either a grebe or a loon with its babies on its back. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So I think locally, I think we do get them around here. It may be tough. Like it might be like a rare bird.
I think so, but I think it's possible.
Yeah. A bird that in general I would like, that is on my bucket list that we have no chance of seeing here, would be a lilac breasted roller. Definitely pause this podcast and look up a lilac breasted roller. I think they're pretty common in Kenya specifically, or just like generally in Africa. It looks fake. It looks like someone painted a bird. The colors are just out of this world. It's a really pretty bird.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now. Wow. Yeah, you are spot on with that description there. This is maybe the prettiest bird I've ever seen.
Yeah, it looks
on my
so
phone
nice.
screen at least.
I think rollers in general are pretty colorful, like the European roller as well is pretty colorful, but that bird just kind of, even through the phone, just takes my breath away, and I would love to see one in real life.
Well, earlier this year, maybe it was the end of last year, I can't quite remember, there was apparently a painted bunting in Philadelphia, which doesn't happen very often. It was big news. I did not see it.
Yeah. This was before I got into birding, so I was like, oh, like Sam did tell me. He was like, yo, there's a painted bunting around. I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, hopefully it comes around next year. That'd be great.
It would be great.
Where was that scene? Bartram's Garden?
Bartram's Garden.
Yeah, another place around here good for birding.
All right, our second question today, also asked by Iris. Thank you, Iris. You really saved this podcast. What is a common bird myth that isn't actually true?
You know how people say penguins can't fly?
Oh, really?
I
They can?
I think they can.
Oh, wow. Well, spoiler alert. We talk about penguins a little later this episode.
Oh, okay.
I should have done better research.
Oh yeah. Did you say they were flightless?
I said they couldn't fly.
You're wrong about that.
Oof.
Sorry to
Okay.
say.
Well, that's on me.
That's new research.
Sorry to all the penguin fans out there.
Yeah.
I did you dirty. I have one, which is that turkeys. There's a myth that they're so dumb that they'll stare up at the sky while it's raining and drown. Mm-hmm. That's just not true. Of course that's not true. Why would anything do that?
I have heard that before.
Yeah.
I've never looked into it, but
No, it's not true.
it's not true.
No. Turkeys are, birds, maybe not the smartest animal ever, but like nothing is that dumb.
Another potential myth. I think it's lemmings that jump off cliffs, or that people say jump off cliffs. Do you know if
Yeah.
that's true?
No idea.
No idea.
Not a bird.
Let us know in the emails if lemmings do in fact jump off cliffs. I'm trying to think of another bird myth.
Yeah, if you have any myths you want debunked, email us. We can do some myth busting on this show.
All right, so that's it for our first hoot topic.
I think it went well.
I think it went well. Thank you, Iris, for the first hoot topics, and thank you, Lauren, for suggesting the name.
Yeah,
I think we'll stay with it.
definitely.
Yeah.
To start out this week's main topic, let's do some word association.
You always have a game for me, and
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm going to say a word. You say the first word you think of.
This is very scary for me.
If you don't say the word I'm hoping you'll say, I'm just going to keep saying the word until you say it.
Okay.
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 Bird.
Sam.
Bird.
Fly.
Yes, thank you.
Wait, second try. That's not bad.
That's not bad. In case you couldn't hear through the laughter, I said bird and Kesh said flying.
Yeah, that's my second guess.
So that is, I imagine, what most people think of when they think about a bird.
Yeah, not Sam.
They're pretty famous for their ability to fly, right?
Most of them.
Most of them. Yeah, what if I told you some birds don't fly?
I probably would not believe that, because penguins do fly. I've seen them.
Well, you are in for a treat, my friend, because flightless birds do, in fact, exist.
Whoa.
And they are, in fact, still birds. Flightless birds come in a huge variety of forms, and they all beg the same question. Why? Why are some birds flightless?
I feel like it's probably just got to do with weight. I know most birds have hollow bones to make them light enough to fly. I don't know. I feel like it's probably case by case for each bird. Penguins probably need a lot of fat because they're living in cold climates, so that probably makes them too heavy to fly.
So they're adapting to their surroundings, maybe.
Yeah, you could say that.
What might be another word for that? Potentially evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Evolution plays a huge role in certain species losing their ability to fly. Some birds evolved kind of in lockstep with their changing environments. After the dinosaurs were wiped out, there were a lot of temperate rainforests that kind of died out, and then there was a lot of low to the ground grass. That's where all the food ended up. So some birds needed to be closer to the ground to eat. Some got too big to fly. Some needed their wings to be specifically shaped to make them better swimmers. Wonder who that is. And some just stopped flying because they didn't need to fly anymore. Like, there are a lot of birds that there just weren't any predators or competition for food around them.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to fly. They didn't really need to use their wings.
Like an ostrich probably is probably big and strong enough to hold its own. Doesn't need to fly away.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, that's an oversimplification of evolution, but those are all some main factors that led to certain birds becoming flightless. A pretty neat example of this cool phenomenon that I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, but it's called convergent evolution. If you haven't heard of it, convergent evolution is when two unrelated species evolve the same way, but completely independent of each other, right? A good example of this is dolphins and sharks. Those are two completely different animals, different like families of animals, mammal, fish, but they have a very similar body shape. Yeah. And they both evolved that way to help streamline themselves in the water.
Good example.
Do you have any examples of convergent evolution that you like?
I think a good example of convergent evolution may be going off with your dolphin example, dolphins and bats. I know dolphins it's not the exact same thing, but I know dolphins use sonar to tell where prey is. They emit the sound wave and they wait for the return sound wave, and that'll tell them like how big their prey is and how far away it is. Similar with bats, they make the sound and they wait for it to bounce off of something nearby, and they're able to tell if it's a prey item or like something like a tree, and they'll be able to tell how far away it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, dolphins can, like, they both can see, but dolphins are in like sometimes murky, dark water, and bats are like night sky, so it's hard for them to see their prey.
Yeah. In my understanding of convergent evolution, that's like a perfect example. Bats and birds even, they both have wings. Like, I think that's convergent evolution.
That's a good point, yeah.
Well, so all of this is to say that although flightless birds do have this one very big thing in common, which is that they can't fly, they came across it in very different ways and in very different locations. One of the only continents actually to not have any flightless birds, native flightless birds, is North America, where we currently live. And I don't know about you, but I kind of feel left out.
Yeah, I wish we had a flightless bird. That'd be kind of cool.
I know.
I mean, like, we have turkeys.
They can fly. A little bit.
A little bit, at least, yeah.
There is a, subclass of birds that are believed to be losing their ability to fly. That does include turkeys, domesticated turkeys at least. Wild turkeys actually can still fly pretty well.
Like, okay, when you say fly, like, what do you mean? They're like flying, or they're just flying?
Like flying, like not soaring. Not talking about like a flying squirrel. I mean like they are using their wings to
gain lift and move somewhere. Yeah. Okay, great.
So we talked a few episodes ago about how migration lets us see some rare birds, but something tells me that these flightless birds aren't going to be migrating by anytime soon. So I think we need to go on a little trip of our own. Welcome everybody to the Birds Are Real special flightless bird program experience tour around the world.
I love how concise
flightless birds.
I love how concise that was. I think it's really catchy what you just said there.
I think so too. I will be your tour guide, Sam, as we visit countries, islands, and icebergs from around the world in search of our flightless friends. If we're really lucky, we may even be able to go through a rift in space-time towards the end of our trip. But we'll have to wait and see. No flash photography, no littering at any time. Any questions?
No, I'm very intrigued about this rift in space. I have no idea where that's going.
Space-time.
Rift in space-time.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's pull into our first stop, somewhere you've actually already mentioned on the podcast, Kenya.
Great.
We're here at a national park. We've already seen some great giant mammals.
Hopefully we've seen a lilac-breasted roller.
Hopefully. Yeah, one can only hope. If we keep an eye out, we may be able to spot our first flightless bird. Any ideas what we could be looking for?
I'm thinking an ostrich.
You are thinking correctly. We are looking for the largest flightless bird in the world, also just the largest bird in the world, the common ostrich. Do you have any feelings about the common ostrich generally?
I think they're cool. I know they're pretty vicious. Wait, speaking of the ostrich, it does remind me of maybe a common myth that I don't know the answer to. I think in like pop culture, there's like a thing where either ostriches or maybe it's like roadrunners or something, they like put their head in the sand when they're scared.
Yep.
They probably don't do that.
Yeah, you're completely right. They do not bury their heads in the sand. That's just a complete myth. I think the thinking is like if they get scared or approached by a predator, they hide from them by sticking their heads in the ground. Again, no bird is that stupid.
Yeah.
Also, ostriches are gigantic. And as we're about to learn, they run really fast. They can just run away. So this is a good first stop because just looking at an ostrich, we can pretty easily understand why these things don't fly. For one thing,
They're huge.
They're huge.
Yeah.
They evolved to focus on running, most likely, like I mentioned before, after the mass extinction of dinosaurs. It resulted in food sources being closer to the ground and a bit more spread out. Ostriches can sprint at up to 43 miles per hour for short bursts.
Wow.
And they can run consistently at 30. They can just cruise at 30 miles an hour.
That's actually wild.
Yeah, for reference, Usain Bolt, fastest human ever, he topped out at 27.8 miles per hour.
That's probably for like a few seconds during his 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next time you're watching the 100-meter dash, imagine an ostrich on the starting line. By the time the ostrich finishes, most of the sprinters will be about halfway done.
Wow.
Ostriches also have this other feature that's pretty emblematic of almost every flightless bird, which is that they lack the keel-shaped sternum bone that most birds have. So their sternum kind of juts out a little bit, which allows them to have these muscles. They need really big muscles on their wings in order to fly. Birds do.
When you say keel-shaped, is that like in reference to a boat or something?
I believe so, yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
the keel of a ship or something?
The keel of a ship.
Yeah.
Ostriches have a flat sternum. So without the keel shape, the big beefy wing muscles needed to fly can't develop. Ostriches do actually still use their wings, though. Any thoughts on what they might use them for?
Maybe for like mating displays or for just like defense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are both true. I believe they flap their wings around for mating displays, also to scare off predators.
They can like pretend or like show they're like
Yep.
show that they're
Getting
bigger,
big.
getting
Yep.
big, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you should do with like
You should do with
if
a
you see
bear.
with the bear.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Great.
There's also a few other reasons. One is that they use them as fans. It's pretty hot out there where they live.
Wow.
They flap them to keep cool. Another one, I think this is pretty fun. When they run, they're running so fast that they need some help balancing. So they'll kind of flap and stick out their wings and use them like airplane wings to not only balance but also turn.
That's kind
so
of
if
funny.
they're turning right, they just stick out their wings and kind of.
So they're kind of flying on the ground, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm pretty sure Planet Earth 3 has a section on ostriches. I didn't have time to rewatch it though, so any Planet Earth fans out there, let me know. But I'm pretty sure ostrich parents also use their wings to help shade their babies from the sun during really hot parts of the day.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that was in Planet Earth 3. Shout out David
I've
Attenborough.
never seen. I should watch it.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So on our first stop around the world, we see that being flightless doesn't mean being worse or less able to survive. It just means that they can't fly. We see that it's just the nature of the bird that adapted in other ways. Keep that in mind when we hit our final stop. So on we go. Kesh, is there another type of bird that comes to mind when you think about ostriches?
When I think about ostriches, I also think about like emus or cassowaries.
Yeah. So you're very right. On our next stop, we're hoping to see a bird that is in many ways quite similar to the ostrich, the emu. Emu?
Emu.
I think it's interchangeable.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
If they wanted to call it an emu, they would have just said like EMOO, right?
Right.
So it's got to be emu.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Here we are in the land down under, Australia, You want to do an Australian accent for me, Kesh?
Not really.
Okay,
I
good.
really don't.
Yeah, I can't either.
Not on the air and in
No.
front of all these people.
Yeah,
you
no
know?
worries. Emus are actually really important to Australia, like ecologically, but also culturally. I'm not going to get into all that here. I know you have an episode in the works planning to go over some bird mythology. Maybe that's something we'll tackle later down the road.
Yeah, a little sneak peek. We will be talking about some bird mythology and maybe
Yep.
some future episodes.
This will be a quicker stop, since a lot of what we said about ostriches also applies to emus. They're huge, but not as huge. They're fast, but not quite as fast. And they do also use their wings as rudders.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
One thing I did want to mention, though, is weight. It's pretty obvious that if a bird weighs too much, it can't fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if weighing too much is actually an advantage? One of the reasons emus weigh so much is because water is sometimes really hard to come by in Australia. So when they find some fresh water, they really need to fill up. They can go a while without water, but that's because when they drink, they guzzle some gallons up. Kind of like camels.
They're like camels.
Like camels.
I did not know emus
Yep.
were like camels. That's wild.
I'm not a biologist, so again, I don't know if this counts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another example of convergent evolution.
Yeah, is like a cactus and an emu also an example of convergent evolution?
No one's here to say no, so I'm
Honestly,
saying
I think that
yes.
makes sense. Yeah, they both need water. They evolved or adapted into a way to store some water
Yep.
when they're able to get it.
Yeah, so in that case, like the ability to fly would actually hurt the emu because it wouldn't be able to hold as much water.
Right, because it would need to be lighter. Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense.
So flying is not always an advantage. That's what I tell myself anyway when I get sad that I'm not a bird.
Yeah, we can just be one with the ostriches and the emus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do actually have a personal connection to emus.
Oh, okay, you're
Yeah.
Australian. I did not know that. Wow, learning something new every day.
Well, when I was younger, I went with my extended family to this like reptile-themed zoo out in Pennsylvania. It's called Reptile Land, or it might be Reptiland. I don't know. Reptilland. Never knew how it was pronounced.
Interesting.
Obviously, like it was mostly reptiles there, but they did also have an emu exhibit with emus. I think
In
because
Reptile Land. In
Yeah.
Reptiland.
I think it was a nod to like dinosaurs, birds evolving from dinosaurs.
okay,
You know
sure.
what I mean? You could feed the emus by putting a quarter in this like gumball machine looking thing, and some emu kibble comes out. You were supposed to put the whole pile of emu food in your hand, hold your hand out flat, and the emu would come over and eat it out of your hand. So my cousin and I, we just had one quarter between the two of us. So we decided it would be a good idea to split the food, each take half. So I held out my hand with half the food, and I think the emu expected there to be more food because it just like chomped down on my hand.
Oh no.
Yeah. Didn't cause any injuries.
It was
or
like
anything.
calibrated to a quarter's worth of food, and you
Exactly.
had half a
I
quarter's
had half
worth
a
of
quarter,
food.
like 12.5 cents.
Oh no.
But yeah, no injuries. They don't have teeth.
Yeah.
But I've been bitten by an emu.
I imagine their beaks are like very hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
real
like
hard.
pretty heavy. Yeah.
Well, before we leave Oceania, there's no way we can have a tour of flightless birds without stopping in New Zealand.
Okay.
It's the country with the most species of flightless birds in the world.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Any thoughts on why that might be?
Well, it's an island.
Yeah. So island is definitely right. And specifically that up until about 1,000 years ago, give or take, New Zealand didn't have any humans. There weren't any other mammals, dogs, cats, rats, other mammals that are pretty destructive to birds generally. Especially
Wait, that's pretty
flightless
cool. I
birds.
did like there was no humans on New Zealand until 1,000 years ago.
No, yeah. My
Wow.
research, which isn't the most in depth, but what I learned was that the Maori people were Polynesian and they came over to New Zealand and set up camp around the 1300s.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense. Because I know the Maori are technically indigenous to
Yeah.
New Zealand, but
Exactly.
I didn't know they're Polynesian, like
Yeah.
from history. Yeah.
Yeah. So originally it was basically just birds and some bats. We'll see this later on with other islands that we talk about, but basically this kind of lack of predators allowed some smaller birds to also lose their ability to fly because of things like bone density and the ability to forage food close to the ground. The only predators that they really had were birds of prey and some bats, but those are in the sky, so actually being on the ground is kind of helpful in avoiding them.
It must be a pretty big bat.
Yeah, there's some big bats there. There's also some small birds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rather than the giant, powerful ostriches, emus that we've been talking about, where
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense why they can't fly, they're so big. Some of these smaller New Zealand birds lost their ability to fly because they just didn't need to.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There are also giant flightless birds in New Zealand, like, don't get me wrong. But we do see a much wider variety of flightless birds in all shapes and sizes. Since there are so many, I think it's only fitting that at this stop we talk about two. The kiwi and the kakapo.
Oh, the kakapo too.
Yep.
Great wingspan bird.
Well,
also the kiwi, great wingspan bird.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna say,
with the obvious.
Yeah,
They're both great.
I knew the kiwi because of they call New Zealanders kiwis.
Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't know about I didn't know the kakapo was in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually both really important figures in New Zealand in Maori mythology.
Mm-hmm. Is the pukeko also New Zealand or is that Australian?
It might be New Zealand.
Okay.
I know it was in the Wingspan Oceania expansion pack.
Not that good of a bird in wingspan, unfortunately.
No, it's okay. But yeah, like you said, the kiwi is a term used for a person from New Zealand. Mm-hmm. It's also their national bird.
Nice.
Yeah. So the kiwi has a lot of interesting things going on. I think we'll start with their eggs.
Okay.
They lay the largest eggs relative to body mass out of any bird.
Okay.
Right? Normally the eggs are about 20% of the mass of the mother kiwi, which it's a big chunk. It's like
That's
1/5.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is good reason for this though, which is that kiwis develop really well in their eggs. So after they hatch, they've already got feathers, and within 10 days they can like leave the nest. They can be
They're, like,
on their own.
Yeah.
Yep. Forage
I know
food.
there's a biological term for like animals that are like ready to go from birth, like snakes and stuff, versus like other humans obviously need care from their mothers and fathers. They can't they're not ready for the wild from the get go. I forget the term though.
I don't know it.
If you know the term, let us know.
Let us know in an email. Yep. Yeah, they're born with kind of this yolk on their body that they like feed on for the first 10 days, and then they're just ready to go.
Wow.
So kiwis are also nocturnal, but also kind of not nocturnal. Being nocturnal actually seems to be a fairly recent adaptation that possibly only happened after humans and the other mammals came to New Zealand. Probably so the kiwis could be a little safer when they're active
Yeah.
at night. This is all conjecture, by the way. I didn't see anything conclusive about this, but there seems like there's some anecdotal evidence at least.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so some people think this because New Zealand has created a bunch of sanctuaries for kiwis around the island where they've been able to actually remove predators like invasive species. And the kiwis are doing really well here, and they also are pretty active during the day as opposed to night in the sanctuaries.
Do you know if there's a difference in population between like North Island, South Island of New Zealand?
There are actually differences. There is the North Island brown kiwi and the South Island
They're
kiwi.
different species.
I think either different species or like different classifications of a species. The other bird we're here to see in New Zealand is the kakapo, which it's kind of a parrot. It's also kind of an owl, and it also can't fly.
It looks really cool.
It does look really cool.
It looks like it has a lot of wisdom.
Yes, hence the owl, right?
Yes. Look up a kakapo if you don't know what that is.
Yeah, look it up. It's very cool. It does belong to the parrot family. It's like known as the only flightless parrot, but it does have a lot of owl qualities, including eyes that look forward, which is an owl thing.
It's more of a predator thing, too.
A predator
right?
thing, yep.
Yeah.
And also being nocturnal is an owl thing. And it's a kakapo thing. I don't think this has been officially confirmed, but it's pretty likely that the kakapo has one of the longest lifespans of any birds. There have been some reports that they live like 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know parrots in general live pretty long.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
They do. Despite this really long lifespan, however long it actually is, their numbers for a while were really dwindling, and it seemed like they were basically headed towards extinction. But conservation efforts, similar to the kiwi, they really saved the day.
Wow.
Right?
That's great.
In 1995, kakapo numbers were down to right around only 50 total birds. These days, that number has more than quintupled, like over 250 these days. Especially in the last few years, it's really been trending upwards.
Are these all in captivity or...
It's kind of a mix. They did some like breeding in captivity, re-releasing, and now they're kind of seeing in the wild that they're doing better.
Okay, nice.
Yep. So, hey, great job, New Zealand.
Yeah, good on you guys. Good on you, Kiwis.
Yeah. The kakapo does have a really cool thing that it does with its wings, even though it can't fly, which is when they jump out of trees, they get high in trees because they're like really good climbers.
Mm-hmm.
So they jump out of trees, they use their wings kind of like a parachute, so they can land like much more
Very
gently.
softly.
Yeah. I don't know why that sounds like so like novel to me, like birds fly, like we see that.
They land softly all the time.
Yeah, but like I don't know, just imagining like look up that bird and imagine it falling with style from a tree, Shout out to
Maybe it's the only flightless bird that can do that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like
I kind of like looking at just picturing a kakapo doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me happy.
So we've been to some pretty warm places on the tour so far. I'm kind of starting to sweat. I could cool off a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we're heading down to the Antarctic Peninsula, where there's only one type of bird we could possibly be talking about. The snow ostrich. Just kidding, I made that up. Yeah, it's not a real thing. Though. We're obviously about to talk about penguins.
Nice.
I know that like the penguin fandom can get pretty contentious, and people are going to be mad if we don't talk about their like specific favorite type of penguin.
Yeah, do you want to just roll off some penguin species,
Yeah.
All right. I know like maybe 2.
Do you have a favorite?
I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. I think it's like Adelaide.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
I think I like the Adelaide penguin. Mm-hmm. Is there a penguin like named after someone? Like Bonaparte's penguin? I don't think Napoleon named a penguin. Okay, I like the Adelaide penguin, and then I don't know, Emperor penguin I know is a thing.
Yeah, Emperor penguins, rockhopper penguins are pretty popular. We have this guy who's always emailing us about little blue penguins.
Oh, yeah! Shout out to that guy emailing us about the little penguin.
Yep.
Also I wouldn't call it a good bird in wingspan. It's a good bird when it works out for you.
Hit or miss.
It's a hit or miss bird.
So, I mean, if you want to learn about emperor penguins, you can go watch March of the Penguins, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to learn about rockhoppers, I think that animated movie Surf's Up from like 2005.
Are those rockhoppers?
Pretty sure those are rockhoppers.
I've never seen the movie, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Just go, you can watch that.
What's Happy Feet?
I think those are emperor penguins.
Emperor penguins.
Yep. The penguin we're going to be visiting on our tour is none other than the macaroni penguin.
Ah, yes.
Yep.
I've heard of the macaroni penguin.
All right, so Yankee Doodle, like the song, stuck a feather in his cap, called it macaroni.
Yeah.
Did you ever know what that meant?
I thought it was like the pasta.
Yeah, okay. Well, so this is what I thought too, right? I just thought it was like a kid's song. It's like silly nonsense. This guy put a feather in his hat and it turned into some pasta. But it's actually an old word for kind of like a fashion movement and fashionistas in 18th century England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Macaronis.
Yeah, characterized by these like big honking wigs, like stuff they'd put on. I think back then it was used in like a pretty negative way, but I'm going to use it in a positive way today because that's what the macaroni penguin is named after, and they look really cool.
Do they have like I actually can't picture a macaroni penguin. Do they have like a big head?
Well, yeah.
Head ornament of some sort?
Yeah, similar to some other penguins. They have this like awesome yellow crest on their head.
Nice.
Kind of like 2 big bushy eyebrows kind of jutting off the side, bright yellow. So the big question when it comes to penguins in general is why can't they fly when other water birds like ducks and geese can? Any thoughts?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier in the episode. They live in such a cold climate that they may just need a lot of body fat to keep themselves insulated. Similar
kind of like the emu that kind of needs to be heavier. Yeah.
And maybe since they swim in the water, they just need more musculature to get through the water. I don't know. Because I know that penguins can dive pretty deep, like a lot deeper than you think. It's probably only some species, but like 100 plus feet into the water. Yeah.
Well, so it kind of comes down to, like most things, the ability to get food and the ability to avoid predators. We can think about it this way. If a duck is like walking around a marshy area, maybe it's doing some swimming, maybe some walking, and a fox comes charging at it, there are lots of trees around. Duck can just fly up into a tree. It's safe, right? If a penguin is sort of hopping around, swimming around Antarctica, and a leopard seal comes up to try and grab it, there's not really a lot of trees in Antarctica. Nowhere to fly.
Right.
So what they need to do is be really, really good at swimming. They have to be able to outmaneuver their predators in the water and outmaneuver their prey. So penguins developed these like hard streamlined wings that act like fins and propel them through the water, make really sharp turns. If you've ever seen a penguin, like a video of a penguin, maybe a penguin in a zoo where you can go underneath and see them swimming through the water, it looks like they're flying.
It looks like they're like little torpedoes.
Yeah, it's very cool. Because they don't need their wings to fly, they can use both their wings and their feet to swim. That's what makes them so fast. So they can like make really sharp turns, they can speed up, they can slow down, they have great maneuverability. That's just like a duck can't do that. Its wings aren't built to help them swim through the water like that. Macaroni penguins, they can swim at about 15 miles per hour. It's, I think, harder to think about speeds in water. So I have another comparison to an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
Katie Ledecky.
Ooh.
She can swim at right about 4 miles per hour.
And she's insane.
She's very fast.
She's so, yeah.
Yeah, like for reference, I can swim at maybe like a quarter of a mile per hour.
You and me both.
Yeah. So Katie Ledecky can swim about 16 times faster than I can, and the macaroni penguin can swim about 4 times as fast as she can.
Wow. Get the penguins in the Olympics.
Penguins in the Olympics.
Yeah.
2028, 2026. I don't know, maybe Winter Olympics. So the next couple birds we're going to look at on our tour, they're pretty shy, so we're just going to be making some quick little stops. The first bird we're looking for is called the Inaccessible Island Rail.
It's called the Inaccessible Island Rail.
It's called the Inaccessible Island Rail. Want to guess where it lives?
An island?
Yep.
I don't know, Galapagos?
It's called Inaccessible Island.
Oh my god, okay.
It's this little island in the Atlantic Ocean.
It sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, well, it's not very easy to access.
I
That's
know,
why they
but it's
named
like
it
it's
that.
like taunting you, you know?
No,
It's like,
I know.
I'm an inaccessible island.
The Inaccessible Island Rail is the smallest flightless bird.
Okay.
It's just about 5 inches long, and it evolved
5 inches long.
5 inches long. So normally, like we've seen that most flightless birds are like kind of big, kind of dense. That's why they don't fly, right?
Right.
These guys evolved to be flightless pretty similar to how those New Zealand birds did, which is that they didn't need to be able to fly. The Inaccessible Island Rail doesn't really have any predators at all on Inaccessible Island. But what's cool is that we've actually succeeded in not introducing any new predators to Inaccessible Island.
What is like who owns Inaccessible Island?
Right, okay.
Like, what is the point of Inaccessible Island?
Inaccessible Island, it's part of this archipelago. It is, I think, technically an overseas territory of the UK.
Of the UK?
Yeah.
Okay. It's always them.
Yes. It was discovered in like the 1600s by a Dutch ship, and the island was inaccessible. The crew who landed there, they weren't able to reach the interior. There's like some really big cliffs. It's pretty hard to get like onto
Just
the
the
island
terrain
itself.
is pretty tough.
Yeah. Some Moscow brothers tried to like set up camp there. They wanted to make a living like selling things to people who were sailing by, who needed a place to stop. But there was no food at all. They lasted 2 years, and they were like overjoyed to be rescued off of that island.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's really cool about this island is that we did manage to not introduce like rats, stoles, cats,
Right.
things that really hunt these birds, especially flightless birds. So the Inaccessible Island Rail, it's doing good.
Nice.
Right?
Good to hear.
Not being able to fly does also work in favor of the Inaccessible Island Rail, because flying uses a lot of energy. Like I mentioned before, food's a little scarce on Inaccessible
Right.
Island.
So you want to
right?
preserve your
Yeah.
calories, yeah.
The Island Rail, it's one of the best birds in the world at conserving energy. Not just because it doesn't need to fly, but because it's just kind of living the island life, you know? It's just chilling. Yeah.
It's also so small, 5 inches.
Real
like,
tiny. Yeah. But I think we've been here long enough. I don't want to accidentally introduce any rats to the island, so let's keep it moving. Well, so our next stop is Argentina, where we will be observing the greater rhea. If you're looking up pictures of all the birds we've mentioned so far, you might notice that this one looks quite familiar.
Wait, I'm going to have to look up a rhea. Because
Yeah.
I've heard of them, but I actually don't know what they look like, so give me a sec. Oh, I've been fooled. It's just an ostrich.
Yeah. So the reason we're just making a quick stop here is that a lot of what we said about the ostrich and the emu also apply to the rhea. They look almost identical to emus. They're huge. They're the biggest bird in the Americas. They run really fast, and they use their wings to balance and steer. One natural question you might find yourself asking of these birds that look exactly like emus but are found on the other side of the world is, why are these birds that look just like emus found on the opposite side of the world?
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of theories, and I might get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure the prevailing theory for a long time was that they all evolved from this common like flightless ancestor on the supercontinent Gondwana, not Pangaea, the one after that.
Gondwana. Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Before it broke up into the continents we know today.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, scientists have been more swayed towards the idea that these birds are actually evolving from birds that could fly but lost their ability to, in sort of a convergent evolution sense. To me, that theory makes the most sense, maybe because I don't really know how biology works, but I think that makes sense, that a flightless bird that's able to thrive has properties that the ostrich, the emu, and the rhea have.
They all have the same.
So those are the ones that thrive
propagate, yeah,
around the world.
Because I know the environment of Argentina is pretty vast. Like there are a lot of deserty areas, I think.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess there's maybe some environment that's similar to Africa, Kenya.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the same thing of the food sources are pretty spread out and low to the ground. So being like big, fast, and flightless actually works in their favor. All right, our penultimate stop is in Florida.
Florida?
Kind of.
Didn't you say North Americans don't have?
I did. So that's the caveat here. We're making our stop in Florida to talk about the southern cassowary.
Oh, I was hoping you would mention cassowaries.
Yep. It's actually native to Australia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea.
I was wondering why you didn't mention it when we were like in
Right.
Oceania.
Well, so cassowaries are quite similar to our other giant flightless birds that we've been talking about. They have a little more color to their face and these pretty distinctive like crests. Very dinosaur-like, these crests.
Yeah.
If you've heard about the cassowary, you may be aware that they're a little notorious for being the world's most dangerous bird. That's what they call them.
They're very vicious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something that maybe one listener will get, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Cool.
If you've played the game Far Cry 3, you may encounter a cassowary late in the game where you already have a lot of good gear, you're decked out, you're at a high level, and then a cassowary will just come and kill you. Just because they're that strong in the game.
Yeah. Well, so it's pretty true. It's kind of true. I mean, it's definitely cassowaries can jump really high. They can kick really hard. They got these talons that are like 4-inch knives.
They're probably the closest thing we have to a velociraptor, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. They can just kind of slice through stuff, including people. They are known to be pretty aggressive and territorial, but it is somewhat of a misnomer because since 1900, there have actually only been 2 human deaths caused by cassowaries. The first was in the 1920s in Australia. They, like, these 2 teenagers, they like saw a cassowary. They decided it would be a good idea to start like smacking it with sticks, really like poking, prodding it. And the cassowary didn't like that, so it kicked one of the kids to death.
Jeez.
I don't know if I would call that especially aggressive on the cassowary's part, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a tough way to go. I know their talons are like sharp, and it's probably not,
That seemed like maybe more aggressive on the kid's part.
Sure.
Like they went up and started smacking this cassowary.
Yeah.
But any guesses where that second death happened?
I'm assuming Florida.
It's Florida. Yep. So there isn't a whole lot known about the case overall. So this was actually in 2019. Very recent. But basically, what seems like happened is a Florida man somehow acquired a cassowary as a pet. You know, an exotic pet.
As you do.
Yep. And one day he just fell over. It startled the cassowary, and cassowary got him.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's with these people in Florida getting exotic pets and then, I don't know. Because I know that's probably how the Burmese python got there, and now it's going crazy all over Florida.
So that time, I think maybe it's a bit more fair to describe the cassowary as aggressive. But, like, not in the sense that cassowaries aren't out there, like, stalking humans and, like, hunting them, and, like, you know.
I mean, it might have been startled, like, at baseline because it's someone's pet instead of a wild animal living in Australia and living in Florida instead.
Yeah. So these deaths and a lot of the other cassowary attacks that didn't result in death, they're almost always initiated by human interaction, whether it's smacking one with a stick or keeping one as a pet or like trying to feed a wild cassowary. A lot of people get attacked when they're doing that. So there isn't a lot of new interesting stuff to say about the flightlessness of the cassowaries. I just thought this was pretty interesting and a way to make our tour stop in Florida.
Yeah, I think that this may be a myth that is true, that they're just very aggressive.
Yeah. But let this be a lesson to all of you. Don't feed cassowaries. Don't hit them with sticks. Don't get one as a pet.
You heard it here first. Yep. Big PSA.
Yeah, leave them alone.
Especially if you're from Florida.
Let them do their thing. All right, we're coming to the end here. And if you remember, I did mention at the beginning of our tour that we may need to go through a rift in space-time. And that is what we're going to have to do to visit our final bird, the sadly extinct dodo. Famously extinct. Like, when someone says dodo, if someone's calling someone else a dodo, like, what are they saying? What are they calling that person?
I think they're calling that person extinct. No. I think they're calling that person like an idiot. You know, like a dodo.
Pretty much, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so basically, if you're calling someone a dodo...
It's condescending.
Yeah, it's condescending. People think of dodos as, like, fat and dumb, and they're to blame for their own extinction, right? Because they're too fat and dumb to fly. I don't really think that's especially fair. And not just because people call me fat and dumb.
Oh my god.
But because, as we've seen all on our tour, being flightless isn't a result of being stupid. It's just a result of adaptations.
Yeah.
Dodos lived on this island of Mauritius.
Yeah, Mauritius, off the coast of Africa.
It was previously uninhabited, similar to other islands we've talked about already. Dodos were thriving here for a lot of the same reasons we've already talked about. No invasive predators, no need for flying. Some sailors had come across this island a few times over the years, but no one really seemed like they tried to establish a settlement until the Dutch. Dutch came late 1500s, early 1600s. I think like 1598 was the year. After they arrived, they did pretty much exactly what you might expect them to do. They hunted the dodos, they destroyed their habitats, they introduced invasive species, and the dodos were completely wiped out less than 65 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was more of a recent thing, but no, really.
Yeah, 1600s.
1600s. Like, when I say recent, I mean like maybe like late 1800s, early 1900s. But...
Yeah, well, so people kind of forgot that dodos existed. They just didn't know. Because, I mean, 1600s, there's no internet. People don't really know. Sure. There's no photographs, right?
Yeah.
So dodos kind of became this, like, myth, this legend of the dodo that people stopped believing. Until in the 1800s, people started finding fossils, skulls, things like that. A mummified skull, actually, of a dodo was kind of led to a breakthrough in our sort of fascination with the dodo. Like, they weren't wiped out because they were dumber than other birds, right?
Right.
They were wiped out because things that did not previously exist in their habitats, things that biologically they couldn't prepare for, came and killed them.
Yeah, you can't necessarily evolve to the Dutch wiping out in 65 years.
No one can evolve to the Dutch. Every location along our tour has also had some flightless bird species that go extinct. Almost always for the same reason. Things that they biologically could not prepare for entering their habitats.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like, humans kind of joke around, blame dodos for their own extinction. And I get why we do that. It is a lot easier to think of a species as kind of being, like, less worthy, not worthy to exist, than it is to wrestle with the idea that they don't exist anymore because we made them not exist anymore.
Right.
Right. And okay, I know what you're thinking. It's time for the obligatory downer part of the episode. No, that's not what's happening right here. This is actually not meant to bring you down.
That's what I thought was happening.
Yeah. Well, so this is actually something that I see as encouraging.
Okay.
The dodo went extinct over 400 years ago because of human indifference. But as we talked about earlier, the kiwi, the kakapo, they're alive today because of these amazing human conservation efforts. Flightless birds, birds that can fly, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, fish, bugs, there are a whole lot of species that are alive today because of some amazing human conservation efforts. I think it can be really easy to fall into this mindset of, like, humans destroy everything, so there's not really anything we can do. But our relationship with some of these flightless birds that we've talked about today shows that that's not really the case. Not completely the case. We are capable of doing some good. So next time someone calls you a dodo, take it as a compliment. They're basically calling you an ostrich, and ostriches can run really fast.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make. Like, you know, despite, like, you know, one of the previous episodes we were talking about migration deaths because of buildings and everything, and, like, you know, those numbers are terrible, but shouldn't discourage us to just inaction. Like, this is just how it is and how it's going to be. You know, like we talked about in that episode, turning off lights, you know, making them less bright can help prevent deaths. What we're talking about right now, conservation efforts for the kiwi and the kakapo. These things matter.
They do. All right, we've come to the end of our tour. How do you feel about flightless birds?
I feel great. I feel like I learned a lot, and I feel like I have a renewed appreciation for them.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hug your local flightless bird. Unless that is a cassowary.
Yeah,
Don't hug
please don't do that. No. And now we go to everyone's favorite and our least favorite. The bird call quiz.
Yep. Score is 2-1 right now.
Scores 2-1. Remember last episode, we both killed it.
I'm going to play a bird call for you.
Okay.
It's going to be a bird that we talked about today.
Oh.
Probably not a bird that you've actually heard of.
Okay, I'll use some context clues.
Yep, hopefully the call is distinctive.
It sounds... I mean, it just sounds like screaming,
yeah.
But it also sounds very marine-y to me. Maybe it's because I think it sounds like a seagull. I'm not sure. Dude, if this is the inaccessible rail...
I wouldn't be that
If this is the inaccessible rail...
I would not be that mean.
Can you play it one more time?
Yep.
Obviously, I haven't heard this before. I think it's either a type of penguin or a kiwi. I'm going to go with a kiwi.
You got it.
Let's go.
Oh, wow. That was such a mean one to give you, and you nailed it.
Let's go. I think I have heard of it. I'm thinking of this one specific video I saw on Twitter of a kiwi at nighttime, and someone recorded it, and it just started screaming like this, and then it ran away.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'll send you the video if I can find it.
All
awesome.
Right.
I need to give you a call. Yeah, this is my pick.
That's your pick?
Yeah.
It's going to be really embarrassing if I opened the episode saying that I've been listening to a red-shouldered hawk every morning, and then I don't get it if you played a red-shouldered hawk. So
it would be pretty embarrassing.
Maybe this is embarrassing. I'm going red-shouldered hawk.
You got it.
Hey.
Nice. So it probably was a red-shouldered hawk you were
That's
hearing
good
outside.
news.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a real birder. Finally.
Real birder.
Real
Two
birder.
episodes in a row where we both got it right.
Yeah.
What are we at? 4-2?
3-2.
3-2.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, right. Nice. Nice.
Keisha's still up. Let us know how you're doing. I know we have at least one emailer who's been playing along. So keep us updated with your personal scoreboard. I keep saying scoreboard.
You said that last episode.
I know.
Kept it in. Let us know if penguins make calls. I almost chose a penguin for today. I don't even know if they make a call at all.
Yeah, let us know.
Probably do.
I know there's some big penguin fans out there and little penguin fans out there. So
yeah, for sure. Send in questions for our new
Hoot topics.
Hoot topics.
Yep.
Exactly.
We love them.
Well, we may do them out of order. Iris sent them in 30 minutes before we started recording. So that's
exactly.
Great.
We're going to get to the others.
We'll get to them eventually.
Yeah. And if we aren't going to get to yours, we're going to email you and tell you the answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we can't necessarily fit into an episode, we'll definitely respond in one way or another.
Exactly. I believe at this point we do have our TikTok up and running.
Oh yeah, we're full in on the social media now.
Yep. Remember to do the Timberdoodle Tango.
Oh, that would make my day.
Yep.
If someone did the Timberdoodle
Send those
Tango.
videos in on social media.
Obligatory plug at the end of every episode. Definitely give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the podcast on either Apple, Spotify, whatever service you're listening on. Leave us a comment if you'd like. It really helps us out.
Videos are on YouTube now too, so if you like listening that way, go ahead and listen there. Follow us on Instagram at BirdsAreRealPod. Follow us on TikTok at BirdsAreRealPod. Email us birdsarereal.pod@gmail.com.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. Every Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. Unless we change it.